Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. This is your host, Ryan Kennedy, and today's episode inspired from a listener's question. As a reminder, all of you can submit a question by going to ryankennedyhealth.com/podcast. I love getting questions in like this because it really gives me the opportunity to address specific topics that you're having challenges with, that you're curious about, that you're looking to learn more about, so I can really tailor these weekday episodes to the exact areas that is going to best serve the audience. So the question was about the best water filtration system. This person wrote in asking what my opinion is the best bang for your buck water filter. They're looking to invest in one. And I think this is an incredible question, incredible topic, because there's a lot of filters on the market, and filtering your water is of the utmost importance because most municipal water supplies, most city water supplies that you have coming into your house are filled with all sorts of chemicals, really toxic stuff. Everything like chlorine and chloramines to heavy metals to different VOCs to, all sorts of trace amounts of things like prescription drugs and just nonsense that gets into the water supply. Some of it is meant to be there, like municipal tap water. They'll add chlorine or chloramines as a way to clean the water, so to say. Now, there's obviously a lot better ways to ensure there's no pathogens in the water, but this is a cheap and easy way for the cities to make sure that there's not certain bacteria or pathogens that can actually cause a lot of illness. And that's something that we all can be grateful for, that we have clean drinking water. We don't have to worry about getting terrible stomach bugs like you do in other countries that are more undeveloped countries where clean drinking water is a big issue. And I don't want to discount that, because for a lot of folks in our world today, just having access to clean water is a blessing. Many of us take that for granted. But once you establish that, okay, we have clean water and I want to optimize the water for my health, there's really a two-step system you need to follow. Step one is to remove all the crap, all the chemicals, all the nonsense in the water. Step two is to remineralize the water, to bring back in the electrolytes, the minerals, and the trace elements that our bodies need. Because we don't just absorb H2O. Water in and of itself is not all that useful to our bodies, because we need the minerals and electrolytes and trace elements to give that water an electrical charge for our cells to actually utilize it, for it to provide optimal hydration benefits. That's why if you were to drink distilled water, water that has been completely distilled down to just H2O, you'd create a lot of deficits and a lot of health issues, and it can actually be life-threatening and dangerous long-term if you're just pounding lots of distilled water. And so what I'm going to cover in today's episode is the best water filtration techniques, the best systems and where you can get them, and at least from my perspective, how to remineralize your water, and then a bunch of other topics. I'm going to go into structured water a little bit. It's going to be kind of a water masterclass, so to say. Every cell, tissue, and organ in our bodies requires water to function properly. This is a really foundational element to our biology. Our bodies are about 60 to 70% water by weight. But if you were to add up every cell in the body, every molecule in the body, our bodies consist of about 99.9% water molecules. And this is a really important fact, because if you're contaminating your body with water that has all this nonsense in it, it's going into all these different cells, and it's ultimately going to cause a lot of imbalances, a lot of toxicity, and a lot of issues. And so getting a water filtration system is very quick and easy. I will touch on spring water real quick, in that if you have access to good quality spring water, that is the number one option. The reality is it's inconvenient and not cost effective for the vast majority of us. I don't even buy spring water for myself, and I'm pretty passionate about this stuff, guys. I invest a lot of time, money, and energy into my health and well-being because I believe it to be the greatest return on investment any of us could really provide. But spring water is not very practical because you got to buy it from a company. I go through a lot of water, and so the cost adds up, and then you have to schedule deliveries. You got to go pick it up, and then you have to store it. And it's just not as easy as installing a system, a filtration system in your home that can provide a lot of those same benefits. And then you got to source a spring and make sure that it's quality of spring and all these other sorts of things. So I'm not talking about spring water today, although it's a topic worth mentioning. What I'm talking about is how to filter your water. What's the practical thing any of us could do to spend a few $100 to make sure the water coming into our house is then going through the system to clean the impurities in the water so that what we drink is great. Now, the problem with most common water filters, I'm talking like your Brita systems and those types of systems where you buy this like pitcher and you fill it with water and you leave it in the fridge. These are terrible filters. They don't filter out almost anything. They do a very lousy job of actually filtering the chemicals in the water and are doing next to nothing. And then they don't have a very long life. So if you're not replacing the filter in your Brita system every 2 or 3 months, it's virtually doing nothing for you. The other issue I find with most water filters is then people hear, oh yeah, Brita's garbage, but I got a reverse osmosis system. And I used to have an RO system. I thought reverse osmosis was great. As I came to learn, it's not great. And here's why. Reverse osmosis systems do a very good job of filtering. They filter out almost everything in the water. But because of the slow rate of filtration, there's a holding tank. Because you can't get a direct inline system with RO. There's now a couple of them on the market, but for the vast majority, you can't do it with RO because when you would turn on the faucet for your filter to come out, the water to come out of the filter, it would be such a small filtration rate, such a small amount of water, it would take you forever to fill up a glass. So what they do is they filter it into this holding tank, usually like a 3-gallon holding tank, and then that's pressurized, and that brings you water from the tap so that when you go to fill up your water, it has a decent flow rate. What I've learned about these holding tanks is that they are an incubator for microbial activity. So you'll actually get a lot of non-friendly pathogens in this holding tank that'll start to cause issues. So you have to constantly clean the holding tank, which nobody freaking does. People want to buy a system, put it under their sink and have their handyman or their plumber install it and be done with it. And I want to do that too. I don't want to be constantly having to change out filters and clean the holding tank and do all this nonsense. So for that reason, I have stopped recommending RO systems. I have not owned one for years now. And that's one of the biggest issues I have with it. They do a good job of filtering. I don't want to discount that. But when you have the holding tank, you just set yourself up for a whole new set of problems. The system that I use and love is a 2-stage inline system that removes all the nonsense in common municipal water supplies, but it doesn't have a holding tank. It has a fast enough filtration rate that you're able to filter your water directly, and it's an inline system so that there's no holding tank. There's nowhere that these microbes can build up, but it's still removing virtually all the chlorine and chloramines, virtually all the fluoride. Fluoride's another topic because that is not something to clean the water. That is something to treat humans, which is against our constitutional rights because the city is essentially treating people with fluoride because they were persuaded through a lot of very, very corrupt interest groups to believe that fluoride is good for your mouth in terms of dental care. That is not the case. Fluoride is a neurotoxic, cancer-causing chemical, and I think it should be banned in the water supply. But even if it was good for your mouth, let's just say it is good for your mouth, it is against the constitutional rights of every American citizen for the government to treat you with a drug or a chemical in this case without your consent. They can't just put something in the water just because they say, hey, we believe this is good for you. We're going to put in your water supply. That's totally fucked up. And there's a lot of groups, nonprofits that have come. Mercola is one of the leading pioneers that's really helped bring awareness to this and really helped fund a lot of these nonprofits to get our rights back and say, this is not cool. You guys can't be doing this shit. So that's fluoride, but this takes out the fluoride, which is good. It takes out all the heavy metals, takes out a bunch of the other chemicals that are added into the water supply. And so this system is one of my favorites. It's easy to install. It's only like $250. It'll run for upwards of 2 years before you have to change the filters. And even then, the filter cartridges are like $30, $40. Just pop some new ones in. Super easy to do. This is the type of Undersink point of use filter that I recommend for almost every patient I work with. This is what I have in my home. This is what I had in my last house. And I think they're just the bee's knees of water filters. And so I'm actually a distributor for the company. I like these filters so much. I actually stock them and give them out to friends and family and sell them to patients. So if you want one of these filters, it's made by a company called Aquacera, and you could send me an email and I'd be happy to ship one out, send you an invoice for the cost. Like I said, they retail for $250 and they are just the best bang for your buck water filter out there. Email me at ryankennedyhealth@gmail.com. and we could talk about what that looks like. Get you a filter. Typically takes about a week to arrive. Really simple for a plumber or a handyman to install. Takes about an hour. If you're super handy yourself, you can probably do it yourself. And that is something that I think is a benefit to virtually every home, is to have one of these point of use systems where you're filtering your drinking water, you're filtering your, it's like a little tap that comes out right next to your sink faucet. And then the system goes under your sink. And this water is something you can use for all your drinking water, anything you use to cook. So if you're making some steamed vegetables, or you're making some pasta or something along those lines, you're cooking in water, making a soup or a stew, this is the type of water I use and find to be fantastic. I think it makes the water taste great. So that's the system I like for point of use. And then when it comes to remineralizing the water, I really like a product called Aussie Minerals that brings in a whole bunch of these trace elements that we, one, don't get enough of through our food due to poor farming practices and our soils being depleted in a lot of these trace elements. But two, when you filters can't, water filters, they cannot decipher good versus bad. They filter out all sorts of different compounds in the water, good and bad. So they're filtering out the chemicals that I went over, which is good, but they're also filtering out some of the minerals and trace elements, which we don't necessarily want, but you can't have it both ways. It's like you take a bunch of crap out along with the minerals, or you just leave all the crap in and you get a few minerals. So it's easier to get a good quality source of minerals, remineralize the water. This is like a liquid supplement that you just put a few drops in your water. Very easy, very simple. Again, I think it makes the water taste fantastic. I've gotten mixed feedback on that. Some people don't like the taste, but that's one option. And another option is you could add a little pinch of a good quality mineral rich sea salt, like a Redmond's real salt, or like a Celtic sea salt. Put a little bit of that, add a little lemon, just so you don't have to drink what tastes like salt water. Or you could add like a scoop of actual electrolytes. I really like a company called Ultima for a great electrolyte formula with a wonderful quotient of potassium, magnesium, chloride, all your macro minerals with a little bit of sea salt, makes for an excellent, excellent hydration cocktail. And then that's going to cover your drinking water. And if you want to learn more about times a day you should be drinking water, how much water you should be drinking, I did a whole podcast episode on that. If you search this podcast feed, or if you search on YouTube, on this channel, how much water to drink, or just type in the word water and it'll probably come up. I go over a lot of those details in that episode, so I don't want to reiterate that. The next component I want to touch on is the importance of filtering your shower water. A lot of the experts in this field say that you absorb as many chemicals through a 10-minute hot shower as you do from drinking 5 gallons of water. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but the notion stands true that I do believe in, which is that our skin is one of our largest organs. And when we take a hot shower, we do absorb a lot of chemicals through our skin, because the heat opens up our pores. Our skin is very susceptible to absorption. That's why we have topical creams and certain things like topical magnesium that can get into the bloodstream. And when you're showering in all these chemicals, it's seeping into the skin, into your body. Additionally, the hot shower is creating steam. And one of the reasons I don't like steam saunas is for the same notion, in that you're taking a lot of the chemicals in the water and you're turning them into a gas state, and now you're breathing them through your freaking lungs. No bueno, folks. You don't want to be doing that. Just another reason why you should be taking cold showers, which is a great benefit for your health for this reason and many others. But if you're like, Ryan, I like my hot showers, dude. I'm like, listen, I get it. I feel it. What you can do is get a whole house water filtration system. This is something that's like a tank that can go near your water heater, could go on the side of your house, could go in your basement. And this connects to the incoming water supply for the entire house. And this is like a big tank that's filled with catalytic carbon, which is one of the best forms of carbon for filtering out all these chemicals. And this ensures all the water in your home is filtered. So for all your showers, your laundry, your cooking, your drinking, all the water needs that you have in your home, this filters it out. And one of the main benefits I hear from my patients who invest in these water filtration systems is, oh my gosh, Ryan, my skin has never felt better. And it makes total sense, because there's a direct connection to your skin health and the water that you're using to bathe. So when you're using water that has all these chemicals, it's causing disruptions to your skin microbiome. And this can lead to a lot of issues such as acne, such as dry skin, such as other problems. I mean, there's a lot of things that people suffer from with their skin that's a relationship to their gut health or their hormones or other things. But water and what we're using on our skin can absolutely play a role. So I'm a huge fan of these systems. I've had one for years and years and years. And the nice thing about these tanks is that they run maintenance free for about 10 years before you have to change the filtration change out the carbon block that's in these tanks. So it's a long-term investment. Many companies out there are selling these things for like $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. So they're extremely cost prohibitive for a lot of folks. The company Aquacera, who I like the most, who has what I would consider one of the best systems for whole house filtration, they run anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800, so significantly more affordable than your standard. And the cost varying is because of the size variance, and the size depends on the size of your house. Like, how many bathrooms do you have? How many people live there? Are there people showering while you're doing laundry? Why are you running the dishwasher? Because that's going to increase the need of the tank size in order to do the proper filtration. But average, you're looking at like $1,500. Same thing, plumber or handyman could easily install these things. It's not super difficult. And ultimately, that's going to be one of the most superior solutions for water filtration. Same thing, if you want one of those, send me an email, ryankennedyhealth@gmail.com. I'd be happy to send you the details and see what size is going to be best for you and all the sorts of details that go along with that. But those are the two systems I love and recommend. I personally stack them both. I have a whole house system and I have a point of use drinking water system because I want to get good water, guys. It's as simple as that. Last thing I'm going to touch on in this episode is about structured water. This gets pretty complex and there's a deep rabbit hole, but a guy named Dr. Jarek Pollock has done a lot of research into what's called the fourth phase of water. And this is essentially H2O3, where the water is a slightly different structure than your standard H2O. And this is the most biologically compatible form of water. And there's another book written on this that's phenomenal by one of my favorite natural health practitioners named Dr. Thomas Cowan. And the book he wrote is called Cancer and the New Biology of Water. And he talks a lot about the benefits of this type of water, how it helps our mitochondria, how it improves the gel-like matrix within our intracellular fluid, and how this is a fundamental aspect to a healthy body and avoiding illnesses like cancer and just all sorts of things. He doesn't claim structured water cures cancer, but he talks about in the book the connection therein and why he believes it to be an integral part for proper cell signaling, proper cell function. And keep in mind, cancer is a disease of cellular dysfunction where the cells mutate and replicate at a fast rate that aren't functioning the way that cells are supposed to. And so he talks a lot about this in this book. It's a short read, excellent read, highly recommend it. And point with all of this is that the way that nature structures water is by going through different rivers, streams. As you kind of go through springs, there's all these rocks and minerals and things in that water is passing through, and it's causing the water to develop this structure that's creating all these benefits. Well, humans, in their very genius ways, humans have done a lot of things to fuck up the planet, but they've also done a lot of things that have been very, very helpful in terms of bringing a lot of cool technologies to the world. They've developed these structuring units that is like this, basically looks kind of like this small mini tank that connects to the water incoming to your house. And within this tank are a series of glass vortex balls, as well as a lot of different minerals and elements that they put into these tanks that are freaking badass. These things are dope. And there's really, really cool research on these structured water devices where they'll take like a farm where they'll take half the crops they're watering with regular water, half the crops they're watering with structured water. Same soil, same farm, same locations, same, elements as far as variables involved. But one's getting regular water, one is getting that same water that's passed through the structuring unit. And the results are astounding. I mean, it requires like 40% less water to produce these healthy plants as the regular water, so you save on water. It also creates better yields, healthier plants, more resilient to pests and things of that nature. The actual crops that they're producing have higher nutrient density. It's freaking incredible. Like anyone that grows a garden, maybe you have livestock that drink water in addition to your own needs. I think a structuring unit is an incredible investment. And I have had one on my house for years and years and years because I just think this is amazing technology. There's literally no harm done. And I think it has a lot of merit in terms of the benefits it's providing. These units range in price, but yeah, they're not cheap, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500, depending on which one you go with. They sell cheap ones, but you kind of get what you pay for. I wouldn't skimp on the quality here. And essentially, these units are structuring all the incoming water that's coming into your house, because we lose that structure as water goes through this very unnatural pathway through all these water pipes. That's what's losing a lot of this natural structure in the water. So it restructures it. These things run maintenance free basically for life, from my understanding. Like, you never have to mess with them. They never have to be changed. There's no filtration mechanism. This is in addition or as an adjunct to your water filtration system. It's not pulling anything out of the water, and it's not adding any compounds to the water. It's just changing the structure of the water. And so these things, like, yeah, it's an investment, but you buy it once, it'll last you 20, 30, 40, 50 years longer. I don't know what the actual long term, because these things haven't been around 100 years. We can't say like, oh yeah, these people have their structuring unit from 1920s. They weren't really a technology back then. So it's hard to say that they'll last 100 years, but the basic premise is like they just pass through these glass vortex that structures the water. And it's really, really cool stuff. I'm a big fan of those. That is not something I really have a connection with the company in terms of buying, but there's a couple products that I really do believe are kind of top notch. And I could put one link in the show notes for the company whose structuring unit I think is the best of the best, really primo one. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of it, but I will put that link in the show notes. Point with all this, guys, as we wrap up, water is freaking important. Filtering, mineralizing, structuring your water, I think it's a foundational element to good health and to optimize your health span, your quality of life, and the overall function of your body and brain. Hope you found value in this. Share it along to someone you know who cares about their health, who cares about water. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you found it helpful, please share it along to anyone else you believe it can serve. You can submit your own question to be answered on the show by going to ryankennedyhealth.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review for the show. Your feedback helps to support me on my mission to positively impact as many people as possible with this information. Please note, the information depicted in this episode is purely for informational purposes only. Please consult your healthcare professional before making any changes to your lifestyle or routine.